This happened just a few months ago. I've been a night nurse at the city hospital for about 5 years. I thought I was used to it, but those long hours can blur together. The hospital feels quiet at night, just the beep of machines and flickering fluorescent lights. The smell of antiseptic is always there. I've never stopped thinking about what happened, and I still can't wrap my head around it. On my third night shift that week, I walked into room 204. I was assigned to check on Mr. Lewis, who had been in a coma for months. He always looked so still. As I entered the room, I thought I saw something. It felt like he opened his eyes and looked right at me. For just a second, it was like he could see me. Then, he closed his eyes again. I felt a chill down my spine. Maybe I just imagined it. I shook my head, telling myself I was just tired. The next night was strange too. It was just past midnight, and I was making my rounds. I walked down the empty hall, my shoes clicking softly against the floor. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me, fast and heavy. I turned around, but there was no one there. My heart raced as I tried to calm myself. It must have been nothing. Still, that feeling of being watched wouldn't leave me. The third night was even weirder. I was at the nursing station when I noticed a patient. She looked serious, almost like she was trying to share something important. She stared at me and whispered, "You're the one who told me I was going to die, aren't you?" I froze. I had never met her. Maybe she was confused or the meds were messing with her. I kept my voice steady. "Ma'am, I haven't spoken to you before," I said. But she just kept staring at me, her eyes wide like she knew something I didn't. A heavy pit formed in my stomach. Was I losing my grip? I told myself it was just the night shift messing with my head. By the end of that shift, I was drained. But the uneasiness stuck with me. I went to my fellow nurse and shared what I experienced. She laughed and said, "It's probably sleep deprivation." I smiled, but deep down, I knew something was off. The whispers, Mr. Lewis's gaze, and the patient's words played over and over in my mind. As I made my last rounds, I felt a presence beside me. I turned, but no one was there. My heart pounded. It felt like something was watching me, as if the hospital had secrets it didn't want to share. And that thought chilled me more than anything else. What happened during those night shifts remains a mystery. That next night, I entered the hospital feeling the weight of unease hanging over me. The fluorescent lights buzzed, creating shadows that danced unsettlingly along the walls. As I approached the nursing station, I noticed the other staff talking quietly. When they saw me, they stopped mid-sentence, their faces turning serious. "Is everything okay?" I asked, forcing a smile even though my gut was twisting. One of them, Sarah, looked at me, her expression unreadable. "Did you hear about the changes in the patients?" She finally said, her voice low. "There have been reports of strange occurrences with the ones in comas." I felt a chill wash over me. "Like what?" "Some patients have been talking," she replied, glancing down the hall as if expecting someone to overhear. "Murmuring things they shouldn't know, things about their families. Some even mentioning things they couldn't possibly know." My heart raced. I thought back to Mr. Lewis. Could it mean something? "Did you ever meet Mr. Lewis?" I asked. Sarah nodded slowly, concern etched on her face. "He hasn't done anything like that, has he?" "No," she said quickly. "But it's unsettling. We don't know if it's the meds or what." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I needed to check on Mr. Lewis during my rounds. Maybe I could figure this out. As the clock ticked toward midnight, I decided to make my rounds early. The halls felt emptier than usual, the air thick with tension. I reached room 204 and paused, staring at the door. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Pushing the door open, I stepped inside. Mr. Lewis lay still, the machines surrounding him beeping softly. I walked closer, staring at his face. This time, I didn't imagine it. He opened his eyes, his gaze meeting mine. I felt a rush of disbelief and fear. "Mr. Lewis, can you hear me?" I stammered. He just stared. I wanted to shake him, to wake him up, to get an answer. But then he whispered something. At first it was too soft to hear, but as I leaned closer, the words fell from his lips. "You need to leave." I froze, my breath hitching in my throat. His eyes didn't blink, locked onto me with a ferocity I had never seen before. "What do you mean?" I whispered, desperate. But instead of an answer, he simply closed his eyes again. Panic surged through me. As I backed away, I caught a glimpse of something at the corner of my vision, a shadow darting past the doorway. I turned quickly, but nothing was there. Heart pounding, I stumbled out of the room. I needed to talk to someone, to figure out what was happening. But who would believe me? The whispers swirled in my mind again. "You're the one who told me I was going to die." I hurried to the nursing station, but as I reached for the door, it swung open on its own. Standing there was the patient, eyes wide, as if she had known I would be there. "I told you you need to listen," she said, her voice echoing in the corridor. And with that, everything felt like it was spiraling. I stepped back, suddenly feeling trapped. What was I supposed to do? Why was I caught in this web of whispers and shadows? That was when I realized. It wasn't just a feeling anymore, the hospital was pulling me in. I stumbled backward, my heart racing. The patient's presence was overwhelming, and her words echoed in my mind. "You need to listen." I wondered what exactly I was supposed to listen to. Listen to what? I managed to ask, trying to regain some composure. "You're not safe here," she said, her eyes darting nervously around the hallway. "They can hear you." "Who can hear me?" I asked, my voice shaky. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "The ones in the dark. They don't want you to know." Panic surged again. "What do you mean? Is it the patients?" I glanced around, suddenly feeling exposed. She shook her head. "Not the patients. The ones who watch us." "Pay attention," she urged, before disrupting the silence with one more warning. "You'll understand soon enough." Before I could ask anything else, her eyes widened in terror. She pivoted and rushed down the corridor, looking over her shoulder as if something was chasing her. I felt paralyzed, uncertainty wrapping around me like a heavy cloak. Taking a deep breath, I turned back to the nursing station. I could talk to Sarah again. She was rational. She would help me figure out what was happening. The lights flickered, and for a moment, the buzzing seemed to grow louder. Then silence fell. I began walking back toward the station when a soft laugh echoed around me. I froze. It was so quiet, yet that laugh sounded impossibly close. I stepped back, scanning the area. "Anyone there?" I called out, my voice trembling. No response. Just shadows shifting in the corners and the sterile scent of antiseptic suffocating me. Then I remembered something else Sarah had said about the murmurs. My mind raced with fragments of conversations from the previous night. "They're talking about family," I whispered. Maybe if I listened harder, I could uncover something. I moved toward the nearest patient room, room 202. The door creaked open, and I stepped inside. The patient, a young woman with dark hair matted against the pillow, was murmuring softly. I leaned closer, trying to catch the words. She was saying something against the rhythm of the machines, a name followed by the word help. "Help who?" I whispered. Her eyes were shut tight, but suddenly, she gasped and turned as if she were looking right at me. "Leave while you can," she croaked, eyes fluttering open for a brief moment before they rolled back into her head. The machines beeped in alarm, and I panicked, calling for help. Before I could reach the door, a cold gust of wind swept through the room. Papers flew from the desk, and I stumbled back as the lights flickered again. I could sense a presence, something dark creeping into the corners of the room. Then, everything went dark. I fumbled for my phone, desperately trying to find the light. My hands shook as I turned the flashlight on, illuminating the now still and eerily quiet patient before me. That's when I saw a shadow creeping along the wall, moving closer to me. My breath caught in my throat. Fear coursed through me, and I could only wonder what awaited me next in the pitch-black silence. I shined the flashlight toward the shadow, but it vanished as quickly as it had appeared. My heart raced. I took a tentative step forward, the beam cutting through the darkness, revealing nothing but the messy room. I had to get out. The security desk felt like the safest place. I dashed from room 202 and back down the hall, gunshots of panic rattling through me. But as I passed room 204, I heard muffled cries. Curiosity piqued despite my fear. I stopped, hesitating by the door. "Help me!" came a strained voice. I gripped the handle, heart pounding in my chest like a drum. "Are you okay?" I called, trying to sound calmer than I felt. "Please." The voice pleaded. "Don't leave me. They're coming." I pushed the door open, anxiety pinning me in place. The room was dark, but I could make out a figure huddled in the corner, trembling. "What is happening?" I asked, squinting to get a better look. I can't trust them," the patient whispered, frantic. "They'll take you too." "Take me where?" I was starting to feel overwhelmed. That's when I heard it. A low, distant sound growing louder, a hum. It filled the room, vibrating through my bones. I swiveled toward the door, the sound pulling me like a magnet. The flickering lights grew dimmer. I turned back to the patient. "We need to run." But as I reached my hand out, she shrank back. "No!" she screamed. "You don't understand. You have to stay." Her eyes were wide, full of terror. Something inside me flickered with doubt. What if she was right? I couldn't shake the sense of danger looming over me. Suddenly, the hum shifted into whispers, voices echoing around the room. "You shouldn't have come here," they chanted, chilling my blood. I stepped back, feeling trapped. I needed to leave, but the door now felt like a barrier. The whispers morphed into laughter, cruel and mocking. I pointed the flashlight towards the source of the sound, but it revealed nothing. Out of instinct, I bolted past the patient, throwing myself out of the room and into the hallway. I sprinted toward the nursing station, desperation clawing at my mind. The shadows seemed to stretch out toward me, and I couldn't help looking back. But in that moment, I stumbled into a figure. I froze, the light flickering upon Sarah's face. "What happened?" she asked, her eyes wide with concern. "Are you okay?" "I need to talk," I started, but my voice was drowned out by the laughter pouring from the darkness behind me. It swelled, filling the space like an eerie wave. "Sarah," I began again, but something felt off. Her expression was strange, just as uncertain as mine. It was like she was holding back something she couldn't say. "Listen to me," she urged. "We have to leave. They can sense fear, and they'll come for you." I felt a shiver skate down my spine at her warning. "Who?" Before she could answer, the lights overhead exploded in a shower of sparks, plunging us into darkness yet again. The laughter erupted, echoing madly. My flashlight flickered and died, leaving us in absolute blackness. "Let us go," I yelled, reaching for her hand. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. As we ran, I could feel the shadows closing in, pressing against us. I wondered if we'd escaped this nightmare or if we were the hunted now. The darkness was alive around us. I felt panic clawing at my throat as I fumbled through the inky void. "Which way?" I shouted, desperation creeping into my voice. I don't know. Sarah cried back, her voice trembling. Just keep running. We need to find the emergency exit. I gripped her hand tighter, our fingers entwined like lifelines as we barreled through the corridor. Light flickered back on for a brief moment, and I caught a glimpse of a closed door ahead. A small window glimmered at the top, offering a hint of hope. Over there. I yelled, directing us toward it. We reached the door, but it wouldn't budge. I rattled the handle, pushing against it. It's locked. I panted. Try again. Sarah shouted. I slammed my body against it, adrenaline fueling my strength. But instead of splintering wood, the force reverberated back at me, and I fell back onto the floor. The laughter grew nearer, more sinister. They're coming for us. I gasped. Just then, the window next to the door shattered. A dark figure loomed outside, silhouetted against the flickering lights. I scrambled back. Run! I yelled again, pulling Sarah with me as we dashed down the hallway. Something cold brushed against my arm, something that shouldn't have been there. I instinctively swatted it away, glancing over my shoulder. No one was there, but the sensation made my skin crawl. No more doors. Sarah exclaimed, her voice barely audible over the chaos. We need to find stairs, any stairs. I nodded and pushed through the next doorway, praying it would lead to safety. Instead, we ended up in a dimly lit waiting room. The air was thick with suffocating dread. A flickering TV in the corner cast eerie shadows on the walls. But one thing caught my eye, a nurse's station on the far side, but it looked deserted. No one was around. We can call for help from there, I suggested, my heart racing with the possibility of rescue. As we crept closer, something shifted in the corner of my eye. A distorted figure, half hidden behind the TV, stared back at us. Help, it croaked, voice garbled. My stomach churned at the sound, a mix of anguish and something darker. What is that? I whispered, feeling sick. It can't be real, Sarah replied, shaking her head. But the figure stepped closer, and the hallway behind it began to warp, like a reflection in a funhouse mirror. I could see traces of movement, more figures, emerging from the shadows. Turn around. I seized Sarah's hand and yanked her back toward the exit. No. She cried, yanking it free. We have to get that person. We can't help them. I shouted, pulling her with me again. They're not what they seem. The shadows flickered, and suddenly, we were back in the hallway. But the echoes of the figure's voice followed us. Help me, you're next, I stumbled as we raced, gasping for breath. An emergency exit sign flickered at the end of the corridor, but we needed to reach it fast. Just before we turned the corner, something made me look back. The door behind us slammed shut, and all the whispers converged into a single chilling proclamation: you can't escape. I snapped around to Sarah, her face pale. We have to move. If they know we're here. But my voice trailed off. I realized we were running closer to the source of the chaos, not away from it. In this maze of darkness, it felt like hope was slipping through my fingers. We had to find a way out before whatever was hunting us found its prey. The emergency exit sign was our only beacon, but every step toward it felt like dragging through molasses. The hallway warped around us, bending as if it were alive. I could hear my pulse ringing in my ears, drowning out my thoughts. The laughter from before echoed in my mind, mingling with the whispers of the figures we had seen moments ago. Keep going. I urged Sarah, glancing back over my shoulder. The shadowy figures were still there, just out of sight but close enough for me to feel their presence. I tightened my grip around Sarah's wrist, preventing her from looking back for too long. What if they catch up? She gasped, breathless. What if we can't find our way out? We will. I forced a smile, but even I could hear the tremor in my voice. Then, just as we were about to turn another corner, we heard it. A low growl. It originated from somewhere deep within the shadows, and it sent chills racing down my spine. I froze. My instincts screamed for us to move, but in that moment, curiosity overpowered my fear. "Did you hear that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Yeah, Sarah trembled, her eyes wide with terror. Something sudden filled the air, a heavy silence that pressed against us. I glanced down the hallway, knowing we had no choice but to push forward. But then I noticed something on the floor. A trail of dark liquid snaked across the tiles, as if something or someone had been dragged away. "What is that?" Sarah squinted, stepping back slightly. The smell hit us, metallic and acrid. A knot formed in my stomach. "Just keep moving," I insisted, yanking her along with me. But I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. It wasn't just the presence of the dark figure stalking us, it was something else, something deeper. We reached the exit door, and I yanked on the handle, praying it would open. Nothing. "Why won't it budge?" I shouted, banging my shoulder into it again. The growling grew louder, echoing from both directions now. Panic surged within me. "We can't be trapped here. That door has to open." Sarah cried, her fear morphing into anger. "Isn't there a key or something?" Maybe I hesitated, my mind racing. Then, I remembered something. The nurse's station. There has to be a security panel. Let us go back. We turned around, dread pooling in my gut with every step we took. As we neared the waiting room again, the flickering TV cast ghostly shapes that danced along the walls, warping and twisting the light. I could see the distorted figure moving behind it again. Panic seized me, and I turned, pulling Sarah away. "No, don't look." Then, without warning, the lights flickered and dimmed to almost nothing. I stumbled, my heart racing, and darkness descended like a heavy shroud. "Keep close," I yelled, but even as the words left my mouth, a chilling realization gripped me. One moment we were together, and the next, I felt Sarah's hand slip away. "Sarah!" I screamed. "Where are you?" The darkness swallowed my voice, and an icy breath brushed against my neck. Then I heard her scream echoed somewhere behind me. The air thickened with terror. "I'm coming!" I shouted back, but I didn't know where to go. "Help me!" That voice wasn't Sarah's. It was the same pained cry from the distorted figure. Doubt twisted in my mind. I had to choose between facing whatever darkness lurked in front of me or risking everything to find Sarah. But then everything went dark. I stumbled in the darkness, my hand stretched out in front of me as I tried to regain my bearings. Panic surged through me as I called Sarah's name again, but all I got in response was the oppressive quiet. I felt my heartbeat echoing in my ears, drowning out everything else. I took a few tentative steps forward, desperate against the void surrounding me. Suddenly, a flicker of light broke through the black. I squinted into the direction it came from, hoping it was a sign. My heart raced again. Was that the nurse's station? It couldn't be far. I had to find Sarah. I took a deep breath and moved toward the faint glow, each step feeling more uncertain than the last. As I rounded the corner, the light intensified and revealed a small room filled with empty chairs and abandoned medical charts. The glowing screens of the monitors were the only things alive. Their soft hum created a strange juxtaposition against the haunting silence. I felt a pull towards them, the instinct to check for a call button or any form of communication. I rushed over, but as soon as I touched a monitor, it flickered off, plunging me back into darkness. Fear twisted in my stomach. I slammed my palm against the screen again, desperation driving me. "Come on. Work!" I yelled into the empty room, my voice fraying around the edges. And then, as if mocking my efforts, a harsh, grating noise erupted from the speakers, followed by muffled voices, echoes of laughter and cries that sent a shiver down my spine. Was it real? My mind raced. I turned towards the door, but it felt wrong, like stepping into a trap. I swallowed hard and forced myself to stay calm. Instead of bolting out, I scanned the room for anything useful. My gaze landed on a set of shiny keys hanging from the edge of the nurse's desk, glinting in the broken light. I rushed over, snatching them off the hook just as another wave of laughter clawed through the air, more intense than before. "Sarah?" I called again, more timid this time. The silence swallowed my hope. I turned, intending to leave the room. But something made me pause. There, in the corner of my eye, I caught movement. A shadow flickered past the doorframe, too quick to be a trick of my eyes. I felt a lurch in my stomach as dread seeped back in. "Sarah?" I whispered, stepping cautiously toward the door. As I peered out, my breath caught. The hallway stretched out into the dark, just like before, but now I could see shapes, figures moving in the distance, crossing back and forth like restless souls. They didn't seem aware of me, but I could sense their energy, a twisted mix of anger and sorrow. The growling had returned, deeper and more guttural. It echoed off the walls, giving life to the looming dread sinking into my chest. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to move. I couldn't stay here. As I stepped into the corridor, everything shifted suddenly. The air became frigid, and an overwhelming scent of decay flooded my senses, forcing me to grip the keys tightly. I had to find Sarah. Then I heard it again, that anguished plea. "Help me." It rang out, but this time clearer, more desperate. It was coming from the depths of the hallway. I followed the sound, a mixture of dread and determination driving me forward. Just ahead, something glinted in the dim light, a glimpse of a white coat. I lunged forward, my heart racing, a mix of hope and terror clouding my judgment. But as I reached out, I realized, with chilling clarity, that I wasn't alone anymore. I heard whispers behind me, growing louder, the figures now closing in. The door behind me slammed shut, sealing my fate before I could turn back. Now there was no escaping my choice. The shadows lunged at me, pressing in like they were alive. I turned to face the hall, my heart pounding. The laughter faded, replaced by a pressing silence that felt like 1,000 eyes had turned towards me. I gripped the keys tightly. They were my only weapon. The whispering moved closer, insistent and eerie, each voice a murmur of agony. I took a step back, my instincts urging me to run, but dread anchored my feet to the floor. With a deep breath, I forced myself to look around. Ahead, the hallway twisted, the faint light flickering sporadically. I made out a copse of figures standing still, their forms shifting in and out of focus like a bad dream. I felt drawn to them, like they held answers I desperately needed. "Sarah?" I called again, louder this time. The figures didn't respond. Instead, they began to shuffle, their movements slow and jerky, as if they were struggling against an invisible force. I couldn't tell if they were trying to reach me or running away. A chill passed through me as one figure stepped closer. It wore a hospital gown, stained and torn. My breath caught. It was a woman, her face emaciated and gaunt, eyes hollow yet searching. "Help me," she rasped. But before I could take in her plea, the light sputtered and went out, plunging me into darkness once again. I stumbled back, the keys slipping from my fingers. I cursed under my breath, feeling around until I found them. I fumbled with the keys, desperate to find the one that made sense. A frantic thought crossed my mind: what if the door at the end of the hallway could offer solace? I turned and sprinted, no longer caring about the figures behind me. I simply needed to move. Then all at once, the ground beneath me shifted. I felt a wave of energy wash over me, a pulse of warmth that contrasted sharply with the cold that enveloped the corridor. I skidded to a halt. Several doors lined the wall, but one stood ajar. It pulsed with that strange warmth, beckoning me. I took a chance and dashed for it, bursting through the threshold. The room was brightly lit, a stark contrast to what I had been running from. It was filled with medical equipment, not unlike the room I had just left. But something was different. In the center of the room was a gurney, and lying on it was a young girl, unconscious yet seemingly untouched by the chaos around us. My heart lurched. Sarah. I leaned closer, but before I could reach for her, the door slammed shut behind me. The warmth faded, swallowed by a bone-chilling cold. I turned, panic rising. The whispers were now inside the room, swirling around me like a storm. Let her go. I shouted into the dark. A sudden silence fell. And then I felt a hand gripping my shoulder, icy and unyielding. I spun around. There was no one there. And then I saw the monitor began to beep wildly, the screen flickering erratically. An alarm blared, piercing through the heavy air. That's when I saw it, the words, "Code Blue," flashing menacingly. My blood ran cold as I realized the implications. I wasn't just trapped. I was in a nightmare that was far from over. The alarm echoed, sharp and demanding, cutting through the panic that gripped me. I pressed my hands to my ears, trying to block it out, but it felt impossible. The lights above me flickered almost in rhythm with the frenetic beeping, casting strange shadows that danced on the walls. I needed to do something. Standing still wouldn't solve anything. I glanced at Sarah, still lying on the gurney, her chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. Yet the alarm blared as if her life teetered on the edge. I took a step closer, desperate to check for any signs of life, or worse, any signs of danger. "Sarah, please," I whispered, reaching out towards her. My hand hovered above her forehead, feeling the warmth radiating off her skin. "Wake up." Suddenly, the door rattled violently, making me jump back. I spun around but nothing was there. The whispers returned, growing louder, almost mocking. "Help her, help us," the voices intertwined, filling the small room. I turned back to the monitor just as it plunged into silence, the beeping replaced by a steady hum. I shuddered, my grip tightening around the keys in my pocket. I tried to fathom the reality of the situation, but all I felt was dread. A cold sweat dripped down my back. That's when I noticed another figure stepping into the periphery of the room, an outline shrouded by the shadows. I squinted, heart hammering in my chest. "Who's there?" I shouted, but it only laughed softly. "Help you?" The voice was smooth, almost soothing, yet laced with something sinister. It was familiar but distant, like a fleeting memory I couldn't grasp. I took a step back, my instincts screaming for me to run again. My eyes darted between the figure and Sarah. "What do you want? Don't you see? We want to save her," the figure replied, stepping into the light. My breath caught. It was a nurse, her face pale, her eyes filled with an unreadable hunger. "But she doesn't belong to you. Not anymore." Before I could respond, the temperature in the room plummeted. I shivered as a rush of wind blew through the room, extinguishing the overhead lights. I was plunged into darkness once more, just the distant hum of the monitor remaining. "Let her go," I shouted, my voice breaking. A laugh echoed, cruel and hollow. Panic rose again, flooding my veins. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, revealing the nurse standing right in front of me, her finger raised to her lips. I nearly tripped backward in terror as she pointed toward Sarah, now motionless. The monitor began to beep again, but it was a different sound. As the girl's heart rate flatlined, the lights dimmed and the whispers grew into a roar. "What have you done?" I cried. Desperation clawed at my throat. The nurse smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Once the door closes, it never truly opens again. Then everything went dark. The whispers grew deafening, and I felt myself being pulled into the shadows. In that moment, I knew there was no escaping this nightmare. And that realization sank deeper as I understood I was not the one trapped here. I stumbled through the disorienting darkness, panic racing through me, but a sudden crack of light sliced through the suffocating blackness. I shielded my eyes, disoriented, and blinked rapidly as I found myself standing outside. Fresh air rushed over me, and I inhaled deeply, the smell of night blooming in my lungs. I was on the street outside the hospital, the building looming behind me like a forgotten nightmare. My heart pounded in my chest as I took in the surroundings. Cars passed by, oblivious to the chaos that had just engulfed my night shift. I blinked away tears, confusion swirling in my mind. How did I get here? Was it all just a trick of the mind, a result of pushing through too many sleepless nights as a nurse? Even as I took deeper breaths, the nagging thoughts haunted me. What happened to Sarah? Had the whispers caught up with her? I stumbled towards my car, but something held me back. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see shadows coiling around the entrance, beckoning me back inside. But there was nothing, only the stark brightness of streetlights illuminating layers of fog swirling at the hospital's threshold. I hesitated, half tempted to return inside where the unknown awaited, just to find Sarah, to understand. But the screech of tires and blaring horns brought me back to reality. Suddenly, my phone buzzed in my pocket, an urgent vibration that felt both foreign and familiar. I pulled it out, my heart jumping as I saw the missed call from Sarah. My hand shook as I tried to call her back, but I couldn't bring myself to press send. Instead, I stared at the screen, replaying the last time we'd spoken, her frantic voice echoing in my mind. "Help me," she had pleaded. I had felt her presence beside me, it was real, but everything after blurred into a haze of panic and shadows. I backed away from the entrance, my eyes darting between the hospital and the street. I needed to get home. But as I shoved the phone into my pocket, a cold dread wrapped around me like a shawl. What if I was running from the truth? What if, deep within the hospital's dark heart, there was still a chance to save her? I felt an urge to turn back inside, to face whatever waited for me in that hellish expanse, something ghastly yet compelling. The whispers seemed to linger in the air, a soft wind carrying vague trails of voices from the direction I had fled. I shook my head, dispelling the thoughts, digging my keys out. As my thumb found the button to unlock the doors, I noticed the light on my phone flicker. Another missed call, but from an unknown number. My heart raced, and against my better judgment, I pressed answer. "Sarah?" I gasped, ready for any reply she might give. But the silence stretched, only static crackling through the line. And then the unmistakable sound of a child's laugh, echoing with an otherworldly chill. I recoiled, the horror flooding back, tightening my throat. "No!" I shouted into the phone. "Stay away from her. I won't let you take her." I slammed the handset down, my breathing heavy as I prepared to turn back. The hospital still loomed larger than life, its shadow stretching toward me, daring me to confront the darkness once more. But just as I adjusted my focus, my mind reeled again. What if the monsters weren't hiding in the dark? What if I had become one of them? As the pathway ahead blurred with tightening anxiety, I suddenly felt the ground shift beneath me. Could it be shaking? An earthquake rippled through my senses, pulling me back. Around me, the world seemed caught in a throes of uncertainty. I gazed back at the hospital, the atmosphere heavy with secrets I would never understand. Maybe the whispered truth was simpler than I thought. With one last glance at that twisted facade, I turned and stumbled to my car. The engine roared to life, radiating a comfort I desperately clung to amid the chaos. As I drove away from that cursed place, thoughts of shadows and secrets still loomed, a weight in my chest, ever present. And even as I left the city behind, I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes upon me. The whispers filling the space in my mind, wondering if Sarah was still there, still trapped in a world that danced between reality and nightmare. Sometimes, late at night, I can almost hear those chilling words, languishing in the dark, "You're not safe here." Over time, I learned to silence them mostly. But some nights, when a chill blankets the air, I can't help but wonder if the shadows still linger, waiting, watching, whispering for a return.